the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and welcome. I'm Ida Masai and this is PRE News. Stay with us for insightful coverage on these stories shaping our region and beyond. Descendants of Africa's liberation heroes visited the Adwa Victory Memorial Museum in Addis Ababa today, urging a revival of Pan-African solidarity, standing on the ground where Ethiopia defeated Italian colonial forces 128 years ago. They said Adwa remains a symbol of African courage, unity and resistance. Kaunda Kawichi, son of Zambia's founding president Kenneth Kaunda, said the new generation must continue the mission of Africa's forefathers. If we do not carry their dream, it will die with them. Adwa shows that no adversary is too strong when Africans stand together, he told Pulse of Africa.
It's important because you see, our fathers, as you see behind me there, they put together this idea of uniting the continent. Now, they've passed on, and if we, their children, do not carry on that dream, then the dream will die with them. But we've come together to show that this dream must not go with our parents. We must carry the torch going forward. Any adversary can be confronted, and you'll be surprised that the human spirit can overcome even the greatest of odds. If the human spirit decides that they're going to achieve something, they will. Just like this memorial reminds us how Ethiopia fought against the Italians against all odds, but they beat them back and they were able to declare themselves an independent country, which inspired a lot of the rest of Africa. Our forefathers were able to wrestle the countries away from colonialism. It's for us now, the descendants, to make sure that political independence, which our fathers got, we now proceed with economic independence. There's no need for us really to go with a begging bowl all over the world when a lot of resources and things we can do on our own, which is what we are striving to do now. Like I said, if us are descendants of those fathers who had the dream of putting Africa up there, we go our different ways and don't even discuss it, then the dream dies with them. So we've come together just to show the continent that even though our fathers were dead, the dream is still there.
He stressed that Africa's next struggle is economic independence, not aid dependency. Kwame Thomas Maliga, grandson of Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah, said Adwa proves the power of African unity. Europe expected Africa to remain divided, but Ethiopia's victory showed what solidarity can achieve. He noted, urging leaders to rise above disputes and focus on development.
It's a historical moment because it shows the African solidarity and fight against colonialism and imperialism. And this is why it's been referenced by many of the great leaders of Africa, especially Kwame Nkrumah, even at the independence of Ghana. So this is a symbol that, as Africans, we must continue to celebrate because, yes, it shows our determination to remain free.
Both praised Ethiopia's historical role as a pillar of African unity and called on the continent to rekindle the spirit that inspired liberation movements across Africa. The United States and Rwanda have signed a 5-year, $228 million health cooperation agreement aimed at strengthening Rwanda's health systems and advancing the America First Global Health Strategy. Signed in Washington by U.S. Under Secretary Jeremy Lewin and Rwanda's Foreign Minister Oliver Nduhungirehe, the MOU sets out a joint plan to improve health services, boost disease surveillance, and enhance global health security. Rwanda, one of the few countries to achieve the 95-95-95 HIV/AIDS control targets, is expected to fully take over its HIV response by the 4th year of the partnership. The U.S. plans to provide up to $158 million for HIV/AIDS, malaria, infectious diseases, and outbreak response, while Rwanda will increase domestic funding by $70 million. The agreement also expands U.S. commercial engagement, including support for ziplines, medical drone operations, and a $10 million investment in Ginkgo Bioworks to build a regional disease surveillance biothreat radar. The deal underscores growing U.S.-Rwanda cooperation and the shift toward locally led, sustainable health systems. More U.S. health agreements with partner countries are expected in the coming weeks. Turkey's flag carrier, Turkish Airlines, on Friday announced that it signed a code-share agreement with South African Airways, the flag carrier of South Africa, covering joint flights that will begin on March 1, 2026. Under the deal, Turkish Airlines will add its TK code to SAA flights across major South African hubs: Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Port Elizabeth, Windhoek, Harare, Victoria Falls, and Mauritius. In return, SAA will place its SA code on Turkish Airlines flights linking Istanbul with Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, and key European gateways including Frankfurt, Paris, and London. Turkish Airlines Chairman Ahmet Bolat said the partnership deepens the airline's footprint in Africa, where it already operates the continent's largest non-African network. He called it a meaningful step towards stronger, sustainable partnerships that deliver long-term value for passengers. SAA CEO John Lamola described the agreement as strategic for expanding competitive travel options and strengthening tourism and trade ties between Africa and Turkey. These partnerships support safe, reliable connectivity and contribute to economic development, he said. Turkish Airlines currently flies to 65 destinations across 41 African countries, while the codeshare will give SAA passengers access to the carrier's global network of 355 destinations in 131 countries, further integrating Africa into international aviation routes. Ghanaian artist and KNUST PhD student Ibrahim Mahama has made history as the first African to lead Art Review's influential Power 100 list released on December 4, 2025. The 38-year-old jumps from 14th place last year to number 1, marking a major milestone for Ghana and African contemporary arts. Mahama is globally known for his large-scale installations made from repurposed jute sacks and industrial materials, exploring labor, migration, and collective memory. His works have featured in many museums and biennials worldwide. Despite international acclaim, he remains deeply rooted in Ghana, building cultural institutions such as the Savannah Center for Contemporary Art, Red Clay Studio, and Nkrumah Volini, now key hubs for experimentation, youth training, and community learning. Art Review said Mahama's impact spans artistic innovation, cultural infrastructure, and global art discourse, reinforcing Africa's growing influence on the contemporary art world. Moving on to business news, the British High Commission in Abuja has launched 2 flagship reform initiatives: the Nigeria Economic Stability and Transformation (NEST) program and the Nigeria Public Finance Facility (NPFF), backed by £12.4 million in UK funding. The programs aim to help Nigeria strengthen macroeconomic stability, improve public finances, and create a more competitive environment for investment and private sector growth. Cynthia Rowe, head of the Development Corporation say the initiatives lie at the heart of UK-Nigeria economic cooperation, reflecting a shared commitment to long-term stability and growth. Nigeria's Presidential Advisor on Finance, Saniyade Okolai, welcomed the partnership, noting its importance as Nigeria implements critical fiscal and economic reforms. British Deputy High Commissioner Johnny Baxter said NEST and NPFF are central to the UK-Nigeria Mutual Growth Partnership. The launch followed the first meeting of the joint UK-Nigeria Steering Committee and brought together senior officials from key Nigerian financial institutions and development partners. Chinese exports to African countries could top $200 billion in 2025 as Beijing remains locked in trade war with the United States. Chinese customs data show that $122 billion worth of goods were exported to Africa in the first 8 months of 2025, with projections that the figure could reach $200 billion. In the same period, Africa sent $87 billion in export to China, a growth of 2.3%. The imbalance pushed Africa's trade deficit with China to nearly $60 billion. Machinery and heavy equipment, automobiles, and metal products dominate Africa's imports from China. In 2024, bilateral trade reached $295.6 billion, setting a new record for a fourth consecutive year. In a bid to boost African exports, China this year waived tariffs for 53 African countries with which it has diplomatic relations. Next, sport news. Africa's representatives at the 2026 FIFA World Cup were handed a mix of glamorous showdowns, manageable pathways, and daunting early challenges after the global stage draw was conducted in Washington, D.C. on Friday. The expanded 48-team format being used for the first time has produced several headline fixtures involving African nations who now have a clear picture of the journey ahead in the United States, Mexico, and Canada next June. The continent enters the tournament with 9 confirmed qualifiers, with the Democratic Republic of Congo still potentially joining via intercontinental playoffs. The draw served as a series of compelling matchups that immediately set the tone for Africa's ambitions on the global stage. The 2026 World Cup will kick off on June 11 with joint hosts Mexico playing South Africa at the Azteca Stadium. South Africa will begin an expansive test match program next year with a clash in July against England at high altitude in Johannesburg as they kick off the new Nations Championship. SA Rugby announced on Friday the venues for the opening 3 home games of the new-look competition, where 12 countries play a series of home and away games in July and then November. South Africa's first fixture will be at Ellis Park, where on England's last visit in June 2018, the Boks came from a 21-point deficit to snatch a narrow 42-39 win. The thin air on the high veld, where the elevation is some 1,750 meters, is usually taxing for visiting teams. Next year's clash will be on July 4, followed a week later by second Nations Championship game against Scotland at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria, where South Africa have never previously hosted the Scots. The third home game will be on July 18 against Wales at Kings Park in Dublin. The Springboks beat Wales 73-0 in Cardiff last weekend at the end of an unbeaten 5-match European tour. Let's review the latest forecast and see what weather conditions are anticipated throughout the region. That's all from POA News for the hour. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more updates from Africa.
This is Editorial from Pulse of Africa, the voice and face of Africa.
Africa's time has come. It is irreversible. Former Nigerian presidential candidate and economist Kingsley Mogolo, in his book Emerging Africa, How the Global Economy's Last Frontier Can Prosper and Matter, suggested that Africa's prosperity can be achieved through economic transformation, a new mindset, strong institutions, and innovation. In his 2013 book, Mogolo encouraged African countries to challenge conventional wisdom, invest in education, build practical technological skill, and focus on the wealth of their nation rather than solely on individual wealth. A few books, research papers, scholarly articles, and discourses have been produced over the past decade or two by African politicians, members of the academia, and Afrocentric activists, pointing to this powerfully optimistic idea that the time for Africa has come. One of them is Andrew Dublin, World Bank chief economist for Africa, who sees the continent as resilient with significant economic prospect in the near term, though he acknowledged that hard work was still ahead. In Ethiopia, a sitting prime minister, in the person of Dr. Abiy Ahmed, perfected the idea of making a path to prosperity in Africa, giving it great depth and detail to all the functionalities and ramifications in a series of books he authored over the past few years under the philosophy he termed as Meddamar, a philosophy of synergies that shows how prosperity is possible via local perceptions of geopolitical, economic, social environments, and by instilling and practicing creativity and innovations, speed, multiplier effect, and persistence for achieving fast national growth and development on a sure path to prosperity. The renowned economics professor Jeffrey Sachs joined in this potent voice in reminding the world of what he described as geotechnotic shift the world is increasingly witnessing with Africa, a continent whose population is projected to reach 2.5 billion in 2050 and a third of humanity by 2100, increasingly asserting its rightful place as a global player. Speaking on Africa and the G20, multilateralism in a shifting global order, Sachs described today's moment as one of geotechnotic shifts of astounding magnitude and speed, with Africa having the potential to emerge at the center of a new world order before the end of the century. Africa's time and turn have come, said Sachs. It is feasible and the right target for Africa to move from widespread poverty to high income within the next generation. The African Union and European Union that convened for their 7th annual summit in Luanda, Angola, on November 24 to 25 mirrored the shift. Historically, this relationship was often framed as one between donor and recipient, but the dynamics are shifting. Africa, the world's largest and most resource-rich continent, holds immense strategic, natural, and human potential resources that Europe increasingly seeks to secure. The question now is, what kind of partnership can Africa forge to ensure cooperation on truly equal terms, delivering tangible mutual benefits? Africa must leverage their unique comparative advantage, abundant natural resources, a young and dynamic workforce, and a growing markets, while cultivating robust bargaining power to fully realize the continent's economic, technological, and geopolitical potential in its pursuit to realizing the vision of the Africa we want. African countries are indeed proving their salt in this regard, as they have come up with a unified voice during the summit, which indeed proved to have provided